one of the things people will often ask me on, you know, Tumblr, since a lot of people give me ass on Tumblr, which I appreciate, don't get me wrong. The things I'll get asked the most are two things. One, besides usual fandom questions, which I always get a bunch of those, are which do you prefer? Which do you prefer, a token character or a stereotyped character? That's one. And the other one is, can you read this character? Can you tell me if they are a stereotype? Can you tell me if this would come off as offensive? Questions like that. And don't get me wrong, while I'm bringing up this point, I'm not discouraging people from asking me these questions. I feel I have set myself up as someone who wants to, in a way, educate, and so I accept that role. Although I will tell you, you should not expect that every single marginalized group will feel the need to educate you about how to do these things. It's not their responsibility to teach you how to be a well-rounded, well-knowledgeable, tolerant person. I do it because it's important to me, and I feel like since I have the patience for that, and, you know, I'm still learning myself, and I learn all the time about these things, about my own privileges, concerning class and other issues, that as someone who's still learning, to pass on that knowledge that I obtain. So I'm not saying don't send me these things, but I feel a need to talk about some of this stuff today, just because I find the idea of both of these things to be kind of interesting. The first one, of course, being which is better. And I feel like when you're telling me to choose between either being tokenized and stereotyped, and not supposed to choose which one is better, you make it seem as though I have a choice in the matter, because basically you're telling me, do you want dog shit or dog shit? Because neither of these is necessary. You use these characters to either give yourself cookies for having inclusion in some sort of form, or for lazy character writing. And stereotypes are used to write lazy characters, whether it be stereotypes about race, gender, class, so on and so forth. It is not intelligent, it is not show any creativity on your part, and you can do better, point blank. And the thing that people don't seem to understand about the issue of tokenism is the issue of erasure. Whether it's tokenization of a gay person or a different racial group, or a disabled person, so on and so forth. The issue is that when you put a character there who is only there to serve, to help out, to be the cheerleader, and has no other role in comparison to that, you aren't helping anyone. You do have a dark face or an othered face in your show, but if they are just playing the same role that we have come to expect from that group, you have done nothing. And so often we give credit to people who just do the bare minimum. We say, oh, you've got, a Latino actor on your show. Oh my God, you're a revolutionary. Never mind that you can't figure out his ethnicity in the show because he's not really, it's not really given attention. I'm talking about Teen Wolf, for example, a show that I've learned to really enjoy now. I'll talk about that on another video, of course. And while I do think that Jeff has done a good job of, bringing those faces to the forefront, he still hasn't made fully fleshed out characters, or even, fleshed out characters in the sense that they just play supporting roles. And the issue is not that you can't have, brown people or gay people or disabled people be supporting characters. That's not the issue. The issue is either one, when you do have those characters in the play supporting roles, all they do is play second diddle fiddle. They have really no character, they have really no traits, they just exist to be like, I'm the gay friend, I'm the black friend, I'm the Asian nerd, any stereotype that you can throw out. And that's the other thing, it's a stereotype. Usually, if you have a character who's brought in to be a token, they are a stereotype of some sort. You the kung fu, Asian person, the tech, or the martial arts, or the tech person, And then with blacks, it's the magical Negro, which people don't really understand why it's offensive. And let me break it down for you why it is. The magical Negro gives the illusion of power in basically a master-slave dichotomy. It is the exact same process, because what makes the magical Negro different from just a black character who has magic, so to speak, that the magical Negro only exists to help white characters. And the reason why a character such as Bonnie Bennett from the Vampire Diaries has been criticized as being called a magical Negro is because most of her storylines, most of her circumstances, most of the reason why she exists is to help Elena, help Stefan, help somebody. Even the whole storyline about her finding her mother is an extension of her helping Elena and the rest of the characters. And because everyone else in the show is white, she must carry on being the token. And then, but then she just got all these other stereotypes put on top of that. She just got a recipe for disaster. Never mind that almost every single non-white character in that show that appears gets killed off on top of it. So, that's the other thing. Babies, you cannot think that bringing in a character who is gay, disabled, or, non-white, and then killing them off counts. You really can't think that. Some of you do, which fascinates me, because I don't understand why you think that's a good idea or a good look in any sort of way. But that's not inclusion. That's not anything. That's just you, there's a difference between diversity and inclusion. Diversity is just, numbers. Yeah, you have a black character. But inclusion is about them being more than just black person there, disabled person there, gay person there. It's about giving them something to do, making them independent of the usual white, straight, cis protagonists we see all and time again, able-bodied on top of that. It's giving them something different to do. If you just have all these characters, you got like all this rainbow-colored, group of people that you've got behind you, but all they do is facilitate the one white character, then, that's not helping anyone. It's not helping that dichotomy of having whites on top and everyone else below. You're not helping that when if you have a gay character who is only the gay best friend who helps out, the straight people, you're not improving anything. You have a funny, ha ha ha, it says something sassy, this thing going on, but it doesn't mean that you are making a character anyway worthwhile. And, people will feel differently about those type of characters either way. No group is a monolith. No one will just think, yeah, we all had a Negro collaboration to decide that this character is okay. It's not going to work like that. Everyone has different opinions about different stuff throughout any group of marginalized people. So it's up to them to decide for themselves what they feel is important. But at the same time, I feel like this whole issue of like, oh, which do you prefer, this or this? Why is it our only two choices? We exist. Yes, when you go to certain areas, there's going to be a disproportional amount of whites to non-whites. And non-whites does not just mean black. Asian people, and East Asian and Southeast Asian, there are more than just black people, more Hispanics, Native Americans, in any population you can find some sort of diversity. We're not asking you to, you go to an area that is traditionally white bread, and then all of a sudden, it turns into Harlem. Well, Harlem's not as black as people think it is these days. But you know what I'm saying? We're not saying that. It's saying like we just want to be included because we exist. Especially when you take place in a diverse area. You cannot have a show take place in New York City and have no black people. Like, you can't do that. You can't go take in something like Vancouver and have no Asian people. You can't do that. That's ridiculous. You can't be anywhere and not have gay people. Gay people have existed throughout history. Anywhere. Even if you go to back in time to a place where they didn't have, laws when they had anti-sodomy lines, they still were there. They still was fucking. They still was doing stuff just on the down low. Like, why did there was no excuse for erasure. There's no excuse for having to reduce people to stereotypes. And then, just like the fact that you just don't have any interest. And if that's your whole thing, that's neither here nor there. That's your own issues to deal with based on that. So, this whole thing, quite frankly, I don't want tokens and I don't want stereotypes. I don't want neither of that shit. Because why should I have to put up with that? Why should I have to put up with stereotypes and tokenized people when you are just so uncreative you can't write outside of your spectrum? Like, the idea of writing what we know. Let's talk about this real quick for a second. Now, I did say in Save the Pearl, like, if you don't know how to handle certain issues, just don't do it at all. And this connects to to the thing about, like, how do I write this character if they're a stereotype, whatever, blah, blah, blah. What I find fascinating when I get this question is just, how often it comes up, and how, people don't seem to get, like, here's my thing. If I have written plenty of characters, I have plenty of characters who are white in my stories that I write and things like that. I never have to sit down and think to myself, how do white people work? How do they do things? Like, how do I make people know that this character is white? How do I fix that up? Should I make them eat mayonnaise? Should they be, like, doing hoedowns? I never have to think that. One, because I grew up in a diverse community, and two, because everything on TV is white. I've grown up with Boy Meets World, Two of a Kind. I grew up watching plenty of shows that had white protagonists, white leads. I'm watching Gilmore Girls now. White is white. White is snow. And, Firefly, Doctor Who, plenty of things, So, in a sense, for non-white people, because of the media we consume, white is almost like our second default. It is something that we are so familiar with. We don't really need to think about it, I feel, as much as some other groups do. If you disagree with me, please say, but this is what I just am getting from my own assumptions. Like, I don't have to think about what makes people white. I don't have to think about, how to make a character seem white or whatever. There are people who happen to be white. Yeah, there are certain things that are associated with them and whatever, but I never have to think about it. And if I think about a character that's like Asian, because one of my protagonists is Japanese, and she's from Osaka. What do I do? How do I do that? How do I write a character that's not like me? When I'm supposed to think of the idea of write what you know. Well, one, I research, not just Wikipedia, but, research what the area is like, what are the demographics, how is it different from other areas of Japan? What are the characters? And you can also find on the internet. Like, even if you have to just resort to Wikipedia, you can find out information. There is no need to be completely ignorant of these things in this day and age. You have access to plenty of information. You don't have the Peter Pan excuse of not knowing any Native Americans to write offensive Native American material. You know how to do it. Google or Bing, whatever the hell you use. It's there for you to process. And the other issue about writing what you know that I think is thing is, it's like, we're human. People can write about vampires and mermaids and werewolves and, different planets with these complex alien races. You can go back in time to Camelot, have dragons and magic and, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, but for some reason, you put a black person or an Asian person in the mix, you don't know what the fuck you're doing anymore. And that really, it frustrates me. Not so much that the people who did it, but that we have that mentality now of it being so difficult, of it being something you have to work on past, And it's partly the institutional fault of our society of making it so that, we've erased people for so long that we feel like, why we have to do that anyway, so PPCC, you're so sensitive, blah, 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 blah. You could have a show with dragons and gobbledygooks and everything, and it could obey no rules of physics, but you put a Negro in there, like, what are they doing here? You're just here to be a token. You don't really have a point. You're just there to be black and then for PC and blah, all the time. But we're human. We exist with you. We are normal. Yes, we have cultural things that will make us different, that would affect the way we live. But at the essence of who we are human beings. We are people. We have a history. You can look up things and make deductions, I don't have to be LGBT to understand in our society what it, to an extent, what it means to be LGBT. You look at the laws, you look at the prejudice that's put against them, you look at, hate groups, you look at that and you think to yourself, put yourself in that position of being a person who is a lesbian or is gay, bisexual, trans, queer, etc. and so forth, and you think about the society that we live in, you should be able to understand it, or at least, empathize to a degree. And what I think has really, been really interesting that was brought up on another site I frequent is, all of the, prejudice flippy books. Like all of a sudden, like in a society, it'll be like whites are, you know, subjugated to blacks, and heterosexual people are subjugated to like homosexual people. And it's like, they'll be like, I finally get it now because I had to read about it. Like, that is fascinating to me that some people feel that way. Like you can't just read an experience and look on the news about the experience of what gays go through and empathize. You can't empathize. You can't just look at, you know, history of Black America and, you know, all the stuff like that and think, oh, that's horrible. I mean, we all read about the Holocaust. Do we have to like switch it around to really feel the effects of that? No one that says like, I don't know what it's like to be a Jew in the Holocaust, I gotta flip that shit over, make it like, you know, whatever. Like, no one does that. So I don't understand why when it comes to things like race and gender and sexuality and things like that, that it has to be like this whole flip thing that usually doesn't even work because they miss out on the larger issues why they exist in the first place. To make people understand why these things exist in the world. There is no excuse for you not being able to, for white people not being able to write Black people. The Wire. Come on. You can, it has been done. You know, Ben Aranovich. It's been done. You know, it's not as difficult as people make it seem. Because at the end of the day, we are human beings. We are not a monolith. We're not all like the same things. You don't even, like, for me, I feel like what bothers me, what I think was the great thing about Aranovich's, how he wrote the character of Peter Grant, was how he was a biracial character. And, like, you know, sometimes when he was in a socialite, he would, you know, there'd be subtle nuances for you to understand what that meant for him. You know, he'll talk about stuff like, he's talking about his family, about, like, you know, Black women, their hair. Yeah, that shit is universal. You know, that shit is important to us. Or about, like, talking about how, like, when he was getting in for a job or something, how he was concerned because he knows that some certain cops of color get put in certain positions because they can fit those kind of positions better because of what they're trying to make them do. Those things are not drawn out. The entire book isn't about him angsting about being Black in London. It's not angsting about him, you know, having all these struggles and having all these kind of, like, you know, oh my God, my life. No. His culture is there. It's part of who he is. It comes up, like, maybe twice, 3 times max throughout an entire, you know, 400 something page book. It's there. It's done. Story over. It is not, no one's asking you to write a whole, you know, dissertation about the racial interactions of a different group. It's just, you know, if you want to go beyond the effect of just having a Black character who exists, you know, just, you know, if you want to know about their culture, like if you want to write a character who's Jamaican, go read about Jamaica. Go read about what we eat. You know, ackee sausage. That's what we eat. That's our national dish. Get that shit on. You know, just look it up. That's what I think is one of the things. I mean, I still say if you want to ask me, I will look at it. But I think, like, as a good stepping stone, before you have to ask somebody, it's to just look it up and see. If you're concerned about a stereotype, think about, one, what you're concerned about. What makes you think that you are stereotyping that concerns you? If you just don't know and you just are like, I just want to be safe, you know, look at African American stereotypes. You just type it in on Google, you'll get a Wikipedia page. You'll probably get something about, like, the Library of Civil Rights, about they have a website talking about stereotypes, the history of them. Just read it. See where it comes from. If you're writing an Asian character, you want to make sure that character isn't, you know, a stereotype of Asian people. Look up Asian American stereotypes. Look up, and then, you know, same thing with Pete. It gives you a whole history, gives you a whole backdrop of where it comes from, and you can read for yourself and see what are stereotypes, why they exist. Look at your own work and think, is what I'm writing based on stereotyped images I have of Asian Americans, or what Asian American people are really like? And if you just really can't get and you can't click, then you know what? Other people feel differently about this, but if you just want to cut the cultural part out and just make them like a Black character or whatever, you know, that would be better for me than writing a stereotype. It's not perfect inclusion, but that is better to me than the stereotype. I would rather have that character who isn't, you know, so concerned about cultural stuff, isn't like, there's not a lot of stuff brought up about their identity and stuff, and rather it just be about them doing stuff, kicking ass, whatever. Go ahead. And other people will feel differently about this, because remember, Black people are not a monolith. We don't all have the same ideas. But me personally, I feel like if you just cannot and you just don't know what to do and you're stuck and you don't know, that's pretty much the go-to thing. Not perfect, but it's a better alternative than just completely wiping them out. So yeah, so the whole like write what you know thing is so frustrating to me because so often is it used as a way to hinder progress and to excuse people who are too uncreative and too wrapped up in trying to write their own little perfect story to care. Like, if you just don't want to write about people who are not there, then then admit it, own it. You don't care. But the little excuses of like, I don't know how. Stop. Okay, it's ridiculous. And to me, like, honestly, I can say this is someone who's written outside of her race and written outside of her sexual identity and outside of her physical identity. You can do it. Me being black does not give me an insight into every single racial group, but I can read. I've taken history classes, and I'm sure all of us probably have. The information is out there for us to learn and be informed. And again, like I said, I have no problem answering questions, but what I feel would help more people is if they just went out and read and understood to a degree where things come from to begin with. So that's that bandwagon on writing the whole American like thing. It's just it's fascinating to me how some people just, how many times I get that question, and I feel like and plus I don't know if your characters are stereotyped by just how you describe them. Like, so it's hard to know if unless you see them, how they're written, the story, how they are treated in comparison to other characters. I think the issue about writing equality in books is this. You're looking for an equal standard. If you have a character who is gay, and he has a boyfriend, but he and the boyfriend never kiss, never make out, never intimate, never have anything really going on. Their relationship is like add and drop to the trip of a dime. Okay, and then you have the heterosexual couple, always kissing, always making out, full-on sex scenes, all that kind of stuff. That's not equal. It's not. You may have a gay character and you may have a gay couple, but if they are being censored and your straight couple is not, then it's not equal. If you have a character who, is completely subservient to another one, they only exist to really form one purpose that is designated to their group, that's not equal, and the thing about people talk about supporting characters and whatnot, they're supporting character not supposed to be that well developed. Here's my thing to this. I can agree with that when all supporting characters are given that same level of attention. I call shenanigans when I watch a show where there are a bunch of supporting characters and all of them get a storyline independent of the main character except the black girl. Like, when that character, or the Asian character or whatever, is not given a storyline that is independent of them helping out the white character, that's not equal. That's shenanigans. Especially if there are white characters who do get to be equal and do get to, have, real meat to them. Because I have one of my protagonists in one of my stories is white, and there are supporting, characters who are Asian, black, so on and so forth. And they don't worship the ground she walks on. They don't, live to serve her. They've got their own lives going on. Not a bunch of attention is given to them, obviously, but their whole lives don't revolve around making her happy, helping her out, being her, her shoulder to cry on at every single situation. And I do have two secondary POC characters, and they do their own shit. It isn't. I personally don't think it's as hard as people make it. People are so psyched out and so scared that they put it to a level of difficulty that isn't necessarily there.